Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prohibition Liquor Co. investor webinar. I'm Robin Holt from Jigsaw Agency, and I've had the huge pleasure of working with Adam at Prohibition Liquor Co. It's been awesome to work with you, Adam. Adam, maybe I'll hand over to you to say a quick hello before I run through exactly what we're going to do in today's investor webinar.
Yes, hello, Robin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prohibition Liquor Co. If you haven't been to our bar before, this is one of our bars here on site. And I'm really excited tonight to be able to give you an insight into Prohibition, what we're all about, a bit of company history, and a bit of the future plans, which is very exciting.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. There's so many of you here. We're really, really thrilled. It's been amazing and actually almost overwhelming to be running the Expression of Interest campaign here for this incredibly proud business. And I think it's just an amazing testament to all the work that you and the rest of the team have done to date to build Prohibition Liquor Co. up to this point. So really just giving everybody a bit of an indication as to what they're in for today's session. We're going to run through a bit of potted history for the start of the session. So about 20 minutes, we're just going to run through the background, the real past of what the business has done to date. And we're going to really try and spend as much time as we possibly can on answering your questions, of which we'd love you to open up the Q&A box here to just go ahead and open up your questions. We'll answer and get through to them as best as we possibly can at the end of the session. And so yes, please do ask as many questions as you possibly can in there. There are no silly questions by any means at all. Yeah, we're really, really thrilled and excited to give you all as much information as we possibly can. Adam, I'm going to hand over to you. We're going to share our screen really quickly, and we're going to cycle through a bit of information on the business so far, and then we'll cover off all of your questions. So, Adam,
Awesome.
just a second. I will be sharing. Adam, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Robin. Thanks for that introduction. We're going to have a little bit of a visual feast running in the background here of a bit of a history of Prohibition journey. So, you know, some early beginnings there right from the get-go. So, you know, thank you all very much for coming tonight. We are absolutely overwhelmed by the attendance. It shows how engaged everyone is, and I'm really glad that if someone is keen to invest, that they really want to find out more about the business. For us, that's really important, and this immersion piece for me is really paramount. So Prohibition started in my backyard in 2015. It's one of those I guess passion projects that you start and you really don't know where it's going to go. You know, you make one bottle of gin, and I like to sort of joke that we were putting gin into a bottle. That bottle that you see there, that was our original design, which still stands today. And you really don't know what it is that you're creating when you put some gin in a bottle. And I like to say that what we really do is we bring joy 30 mils at a time. And that I think has really embodied a lot of our journey along the way. It's us sharing actual joy for what we do with the people that it brings joy when we make it. So bit of that history. So starting in the backyard, small beginnings, you imagine with young kids at home, and we've got a garage out the back, and there's a hive of activity bottling, and I had my nieces and nephews involved, and Wes and I were there doing our thing. And you know, it was pretty quick. You know, when you start this, I mean, I'm a designer and a branding expert by trade, so I've helped a lot of people build a lot of brands. And when you start this journey, you have a bit of a loose business plan of where you think you might want to go. And I think we eclipsed that plan, the 2-year plan, in about 3 or 4 months, which was really incredible. You know, we had this sort of loose vision that we might be able to distribute the product down the eastern states of Australia, you know, in a couple of years, and we were nationally distributed with Dan Murphy's in about 3 or 4 months, which was a real ride in terms of us keeping up with that demand. And you imagine before you know it, you've got semi-trailers and coming and going from the front door, and we've got bottles coming in from France, and we've got bottles going out to distribution. And you know, the nieces and nephews busily putting labels on. We're putting labels on, you know, at the dinner table at home because there's an order due tomorrow. It's all of those things that you do when you start a small business. And it was really, I think, when we decided that we needed to move out of home, as I said, semi-trailers coming every day and young kids in the backyard, that's not the best combination. So we decided that we needed to sort of grow up and move out of home, and we found this site here in the city, which is where I stand now. It is, you know, an old mechanics workshop. If you have been here or you haven't been here, you sort of, it is a real hive of activity. We have our main distillation is here in the city, which is pretty amazing that everything that we send out now all over the world happens from right here in the city. But I think what surprised us most about then setting up here was we became hospitality operators. So you go from putting the gin in that beautiful bottle that you design, and then you're very quickly thrust into the realms of being hospitality people, but also, and you'll see some of the journey of that's the building we're standing in right now. You learn a lot about what good hospitality is, and I think you know, it actually comes back to the core of what our brand ethos is, which is about passionately sharing what we do with people, and a lot of education is sort of part of what was sort of very much our ethos here in this building. So that was 2017 that we set up here in the city, and very much it was a sort of zero to absolutely flat out running a hospitality business. Before you know it, you're hosting people's weddings and you're hosting their very important functions. We're working with businesses, and we're working with you know, clients that are really passionate about what we do. But that education piece certainly has really sort of been a common thread through what happens here in this building. We were very early to gin here in Australia back in 2015. By 2017, we were very much still on the front edge of educating people what gin is all about. And a big part then was that then heading off into the journey of that national distribution, which started from home, getting out around Australia and visiting the Dan Murphy's stores and doing tastings, and then off into the venture of export. So export happened, as a lot of small businesses do, where we started with, it would be the family holiday to Singapore, where I would just disappear for a little while and talk to people about distribution, or I'd end up on a government trade mission on a little side hustle on our family holidays. And before you knew it, we were on our own steam doing these trips back and forth to places like Singapore, places like New Zealand, where I was only 2 weeks ago. And then, you know, places like France, where you don't expect to be making a little product here in little old Adelaide, and then off in Paris, selling the virtues of why Australia is one of the best places in the world to make gin, to the French, and they're really passionate about it. So, you know, this journey sort of starts in a backyard, and it expands, and we really sort of feel a lot of times like we're just along for the ride, really sort of trying to keep up with where this brand will go. We've also been really fortunate to build an amazing team. So we've got a team of people here, is around 40 of us given the day of the week, making everything happen here in the building. So everything from chefs cooking the food for the venue through to, we've got a coffee shop here, which is amazing, which engages the building from the morning right through. And then we go into the evening where, as we said, we're hosting functions. We've got really great bar staff that we put a lot of time and effort into making sure they're very knowledgeable and they're really good at what they do. I'm just a designer, but I have a maximum appreciation for someone who makes really good drinks. So we make gin, which is part of the canvas that a good cocktail bartender paints on. So for us, you know, tasting those drinks in various places places in the world where a bartender gets our product and makes an incredible new drink with it. Those are these lovely little surprises you get along the way. So I'm doing a lot of talking, Robin. I gather that you're okay that I'll just keep
It's perfect.
waxing lyrical for a little while about what we do.
Keep going.
So then I guess the exciting thing is lots of opportunities come at you from every which way. And part of being an entrepreneur, I hate the term entrepreneur, but being a business owner in a growth business is saying no more often than we say yes. So you've got to look at all these opportunities and say, no, that one is not right for us. That looks really sexy, but it's actually going to be a huge distraction. Let's push that aside. And then we look at the ones that we do agree to sort of head down the road of. They're always the things that are going to work for the brand. They're going to work for the business financially, but they're going to help us on that growth journey of where we're heading towards. So always very strategic about what we do, and always very focused on what that journey is and where we're heading to. So I think for us, it's really important that decision making is always for the best of the business, what's going to do the best thing by the business. And also just knowing that we've got a team of people that are passionate about what they do. Throwing them off doing something that just makes money but doesn't actually feed the passion for what we do, it might not be the right decision. So for us, it's really, we're creative people at the core as well. So we're always very steadfast on making decisions around what's best for the business, what's best for the brand, and what reflects what our brand should be about. And we make a premium product. We've never made excuses for that. When we launched in Australia, we were the most expensive gin that Australia had ever seen on the shelf as a local product. And it's actually never failed us. It meant that we had to make a very good product. If we're going to sell gin at close to $100 a bottle, it has to be good. Or someone doesn't come back for their second or third bottle. Or how many bottles are we up to, Karen? We're up to a few. So we like to think we've got some really amazing, passionate and very loyal customers and brand fans out there. We still to this day, and I still to this day, do a lot of the gin festivals around Australia, and a lot of brands sort of say, why are you still doing these shows? You're 9 years down the track. You don't have people that can do these. And for me, it's that customer interaction that's actually the passion of what we're about. So I really enjoy doing it. And I think people enjoy the fact that I'm still out there doing it. And when you say the gin you're tasting started way back in my backyard in 2015, it does blow them away that we're still making the effort to be out there and doing these things. But what we get back from that is an amazing loyal following of people that are as passionate about the brand as we are. And I'm sure some of those people are on here tonight. Karen is here in person. Thank you, Karen. I think we take that very seriously. We take very seriously the fact that people choose to spend their hard-earned money on a product that we make, but also choose to spend their time with us. So that comes back to the core of our philosophy around, as I said, around hospitality, where it's you're only as good as the last experience you've offered, and you're only as good as the last product that you put in a bottle. So for us, that ultimate focus on quality is very much what the brand has always been about, and that's uncompromising. Sadly, Hugh is not here with me tonight. He's off skiing the slopes of Japan. He is our head distiller. Doesn't take a lot of holidays. So we had to say, Hugh, you need to take a holiday, and then worked out that he was on holiday when he could have been on camera with me, but that's all right. Hugh is incredibly passionate. If you've ever met Hugh, you know he's passionate about what he does. And we have this amazing creative relationship where I'm designing what goes on the outside of the bottle in the way it's going to present as a story, and he's working on the flip side of that, on the other side of the same wall. We share a wall in the building between the design studio and the distillery, talking about the creative story of what goes in the bottle. So we've been really fortunate to work in some amazing collaborations with some amazing brands. We've got a couple out there at the moment with Adelaide Festival of Arts, which is a really incredible institution here in South Australia, the main arts festival. And also with the Chihuly exhibit that's here in South Australia at the moment. If anyone's been to South Australia locally, recently they would know Chihuly is everywhere. It's taken over the airport, it's taken over the Botanic Gardens. And to work with Chihuly Studio in Seattle with the most famous glass artistry team in the world on the design of the bottle was incredibly exciting, and it's the first in the world that for them to do that as well. So we're finding all these amazing abilities to collaborate with like-minded brands and like-minded people that help elevate what we do. We've done some amazing work in Singapore with Chef Ryan Clift with his Tippling Club over there. And I think for us that creativity is what really drives everything that we do. And it really will set the tone for the future of the business as well, where the passion, the creativity, and the focus, the absolute focus on what we should be doing and what we should be doing next from all these opportunities. And I haven't even spoken about Seppeltsfield. So Seppeltsfield, you would know if you've sort of delved into some of the brief amount of information that's out there at the moment. I know that most of you haven't seen our offer document yet. There is a lot of information in there about the future plans. But Seppeltsfield for us was one of those rare opportunities that came about where we were seeking a new production site. We had a little warehouse down the road here in Gilbert Street in the city. And we were seeking to expand into a larger production facility. We have a great relationship with the owners of Seppeltsfield. We're doing some work with them down at McLaren Vale as well. If you know South Australia well, you know that McLaren Vale in the south and Barossa in the north pretty much pins two of the key wine regions of South Australia, two of the best in the world. It was then that they mentioned that they had the old distillery on their site. I didn't even know that there was ever a Seppeltsfield distillery. So it shows you how much distilling history is actually sitting under wraps in Australia. So when we came up and saw the building, which you might have seen some images of this beautiful building, it will be in this slideshow eventually. That's me and the Premier, just rubbing shoulders as you do. It's his favorite gin. That's why we're in that photo. We fell in love with this building and the history of the second oldest still intact distillery in Australia. There's lots of older ones. They've all been knocked down. There is Beanley Rum Distillery in Queensland, and this one are the two standing oldest distilleries in Australia. The still itself doesn't function. It was used during the war to make fuel for the army, as you did back in those days. But it was one of the largest suppliers of brandy to hospitals. It shows, you know, the time and date that it was operating when brandy was one of the most important medicinal remedies going around. So this distillery is a true piece of history. So for us, that's incredibly exciting because the history piece for us is a nod to where our industry has come from. But at the time, you know, a 9,000 litre still, and to give you some context, we have a 900 litre still here that does everything we need to. A 9,000 litre still with 36,000 litres of underground storage for brandy was absolute state of the art, this distillery, when it was built here in Seppeltsfield. So it stopped operating 50 or 60 years ago and has been sitting sort of dormant since then. So to walk in and sort of blow the dust off the place and say, right, we can do something with this is really exciting. And I think it's when you start working on something like that that you realize this is going to need a little bit of capital to actually bring it to life. So we've popped the doors open and it's very sort of low key out there at the moment. It still has all the character, but it needs, you know, the core of a really functional bar and hospitality and kitchen that can actually really service a lot of people. And that site is the largest tourist destination in Barossa Valley, which is one of the largest tourist destinations in this state. So we are very, very fortunate to have been given access to this building to do what we're doing with it. And there's so many beautiful collaborations that are starting to already happen up there with Seppeltsfield Winery and with the local Barossa community, because it is a real community up there. Something amazing about, we do gin flights here, and you can sit here and do a gin flight and enjoy what it's all about. And you have this very cosmopolitan industrial vibe of our city venue. But then you go up there and there's a whole change of pace of being out in the country, doing the same gin flight, but with such a beautiful vista around you of those Barossa Valley vineyards, and a whole different experience to what we do here. So we're really excited to bring that to life and what it can do for the business as well. We often find ourselves having to pivot as a business, and there will be some images, we probably skipped past them already, it'll come back around, of what we did during COVID was probably a prime example of us as a business being sort of masters of being able to pivot as we need to. So we were the first distillery in COVID to create a hand sanitizer. Why did we create a hand sanitizer? Because we couldn't buy it. And it just happened that the raw ingredients that you needed were right here at our disposal, alcohol. So that was a little insight into how we operate as a business. It was a Friday afternoon. We couldn't get hold of hand sanitizer. I joked to the guys we could start making it, next week. And it was Sunday night. I couldn't sleep thinking about this idea. I got up and I wrote a little one-page business plan that said, here's the recipe from the World Health Organization. Here's where we can source the packaging same day in South Australia locally. Here's how we can produce the packaging, and I believe we can have this product on the shelf tomorrow. So I came to the team, this is how we're going to market it, and how we're going to market it is we're going to give it away. And the whole team thought I was crazy, as they often do when I throw these ideas around. But because I'd done such a succinct business plan on a page with every possible thing they could have thrown back at me of why it won't work answered, we did it. And the next day we're on the page 3 of the advertiser as, creating hand sanitizer because the world needs it at the moment. And the next phone call we had was from the police force and the fire department and the hospitals and the medical suppliers. So the reason we gave it away was because we needed to switch to an online business overnight. And our online sales went up 3,600%. Yes, from a small base, but it actually today is one of the biggest parts of our business. So that pivot for us, and we were the poor sods that had to get on the phone to the ATO and ask for permission to be able to not pay $100 a litre in excise, and get on the phone to the Therapeutic Goods Administration and make sure that we didn't get thrown in jail for doing this, as making a medicinal product without having the approval. So that paved the way for all of the distillers in Australia to do the same thing. So for us, it saved our business. We switched the next day to an online sales absolute powerhouse, shipping out our little 100 ml free bottle of sanitizer with the bottle of gin. People were joking online that they just bought a $100 bottle of sanitizer and got a free bottle of gin, and they were still stoked by that. So I think, that little story shows what we do and what we are like as a business. We are very, very nimble. I'd like to think we're clever, we're resourceful. And I think as a small business in this industry, you have to be scrappy. You have to be ready to get your hands dirty and get in and do things and take those crazy ideas and run with them. But do it really smartly as well. Long way to tell a short story, Robin. But
we could keep going, I'm sure. Yeah.
So
I'm
here we
sure.
are today, and really, I think everything that we've done has led us to where we are right now, which for me is incredibly exciting. We have so many opportunities in front of us, Seppeltsfield just being one of them, export being another, wholesale being a huge piece for us, that we now have the opportunities, and that's the reason that we're opening for investment. We could package this business
Mm.
and tie it in a neat bow and sell it to Japan or sell it to large investors. But from our perspective, we'd love to be able to share it with the people that have helped us get to where we are today.
I think that's just such a great way to introduce the business and to tell the backstory, because when we were first talking, you told me how creative you were. And then when you sent me all of your assets, I realized you never stop producing different products. You actually you don't just have a hero product and say, okay, let's distribute this everywhere. You just never stop. You just go, oh, what if we do this? And what if we do this? And why don't we just go out there and do something that nobody else is doing? Because that I think that's how you have fun with the business.
And like I said, we are creative people. We would make a new gin every day if we could. We actually hold back and only make the ones that the world needs. But I think if you actually drill into our products themselves, it's the creativity inside those products that makes them so special and makes us so popular at gin shows and with customers.
Very, very true. And just before we transition into the questions, and thank you so much, everybody who's already asked questions in the Q&A box. Really, really appreciate it. And it's amazing to see so many of you here taking the time out of your day to hear
Yeah, thank
the
you.
Prohibition Liquor Co story. Adam, just really quickly, just to paint a picture of where the business is at from a commercial sense,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about what the numbers have been, what your distribution, stockists, where your sales are at, just to give the quantitatively minded individuals something to get their teeth into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we at peak revenue, we sat at close to $5 million a year. We're sitting at the moment in an interesting time for the whole alcohol industry, where everyone hears the sort of cost of living crunch and all of those things going around. Great that we had an interest rate cut just a day or so ago.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
always is a great sign for people to actually have confidence. And I think it's a confidence thing more than anything else. Our interest rates aren't as high as they were back 30 years ago, and yet for the alcohol industry, or for a lot of industries like hospitality, it is as hard as it was 30 years ago when we had those crazy interest rates. So we've seen a little dip in revenue because of that. And that's to be expected. They're talking in some parts of hospitality in Australia, it's down towards 50%, 45 to 50%.
Yeah.
So we are only down about 8%. Now, 8% is a great result in this market. But we are also pushing so hard on our online, that our online business and direct business has held at $1 million a year. So we haven't dropped an inch. We've actually gone up by percentages in the hardest time in 30 years. So for us, that's very heartening that like I said, our core customers are still absolutely there. For us, we have never won more awards than we have in the last 2 years. Now, awards don't pay the bills per se, but awards go a long way to talk to the quality of the product, and the quality of the product is the part of the core pillar of the business. So to be Australian Distiller of the Year in 2023, that is the equivalent of the Jimmy Watson Trophy in spirits from the same awards show, to winning the Icons of Gin Campaign Innovator of the Year in London last year. That was for our bootleg box community. So those of you who are out there that might be a member of our bootleg box, that won the most innovative distillery marketing in the world. And it was off the back of creating these gins for our customers. So in terms of the financials, they will all come out in the document on the 27th. So I'm not going to dig heavily into numbers, or it'll just opening a can of worms talking about numbers, because there's a lot of numbers in that document, obviously. So all of that will be absolutely there for you to go right through, and our full general purpose financial statements will be accessible once the offer goes live as well. In terms of our part of this project, the investment project, is to jump in and really actively regain some of that traction that we've lost in wholesale. For example, we're inventing a whole chunk of our wholesale route to market so that we can actually really turbocharge that. And export is a huge one. So what isn't commonly known in spirits, it is commonly known that we pay very high tax. When we send a product offshore, we pay zero tax, no excise, no GST. So there's a huge imperative to actually make that part of your business model. Also because it just makes us a more resilient business. So export for us is a huge opportunity for growth. Not paying tax on excise on export is wonderful. And we're already in France and Japan and Singapore. We're in more of the top bars in Singapore than we are in our own hometown here in Adelaide. So we sort of see our job taking Australia to the world, taking South Australia in this case to the world. When we're in Paris talking about gin, we're talking about how Australia is one of the best places in the world to make gin. Gin is all about the quality of your botanicals that you're putting into it. And we have one of the best places in the world to grow produce. So Riverland citrus and Great Bay Spirit from the Barossa Valley combined with some of the best botanicals in the world. So we have the provenance to be able to tell that story. And we're doing a bit of work with the federal government to talk around the fact that if they'll support us in excise support towards export growth, we're really sort of trying to target that with them now. If you can help us grow export, we will be the next billion-dollar export industry for Australia, like the wine industry is. Spirits is on the same trajectory with the right support. So that's all very exciting. The other key pieces that this investment goes into is our production side. So we still to date hand label every bottle that we make. Now that is amazing, and it's a beautiful story, but there are more efficient ways to do things in this day and age. So we are working through a way to support our team with some mechanized production, not the big production line where we hit a button on one end and it just pops out. We're much more hands-on than that. But to make production more efficient and bring our bottle costs down, that is just pure profitability. So all that needs is a little bit of spend to get the kit right, and then off we go. So these are things that are really core to increasing production capacity, because what we're positioning for is not the current financial climate now, it's what happens out the other side. Because what's going to happen out the other side is the businesses that have really done the right things during this period. You see that in any financial crunch, the businesses that do things right during the crunch come out the other side running, and that's really where we're at. So wholesale is a really key pillar, growing that wholesale business, and then the production capacity will come off the back of that increased demand. So all of the financials that you need are in the offer document. So that's going backwards 4 years, and it is talking through all of that financial performance of the business. So if you're right, I'm not going to delve heavily into numbers today. And like any business, there's years that we make a profit and there's years that we don't. But we are a growth business, so there's a lot of reinvesting in what we do into that growth, and that you'll see that in the story. So from our perspective, everything that we do, and I like to think, as a business owner in my design business for 20 years, I always had a philosophy that I spend my clients' money the way I spend my own. And that is the same thing in this case with investment. When investment money comes in, we're as heavily invested, or much more heavily invested in this business than any investor coming in. So we are in and on the journey with our investors. So we are absolutely making all of those decisions for the best result for all of us, and really with respect to what the business needs, and making those decisions very, very calculated.
Yeah, fantastic. And the questions that we're going to start with here are great to see. There's a number of questions which are all kind of under the same theme, and I can see quite a lot of you have actually upvoted a few of these questions. Really just answering them. Adriana, thank you very much for asking your question, which is, will Prohibition Gin issue dividends? Will we be able to sell the shares? So I'll hand this over to Adam, but just before handing this over, I think it's really important to note that these shares are illiquid. You are buying into a public unlisted company. That means you aren't able to purchase your shares and then immediately sell those shares. The funds raised in this round are purely being used to grow the business, as Adam has described, and we can talk about that in a lot more detail. There are going to be a lot more details on that in the offer document. As far as dividends are concerned, it's important to note that we'll be open to a number of different options, such as dividends, and IPO, a trade sale. I think, Adam, I'll hand over to you to sort of elaborate on this in a little bit more detail, but I think it's just really important to highlight that this capital raise is purely used for growth, and that's where we want to see the business. And then in the future, decisions will be made on behalf of the interests of the business and the shareholders.
Yeah, look, Robin, you've definitely hit it in a nutshell. So, yes, it is important to note that a public unlisted company, this is the way it operates. The shares are, we all put in shares together, and we all work on the future of the business together. And then so our plan is, I think it's important to note that I, like anyone else in business, don't have a crystal ball. So I can't and I won't make promises on exactly what's going to happen in the future, because none of us know. But I think it's really important to note that if yes, we are reinvesting in the growth of the business, and that is really, really important, because the eventual outcome is towards some sort of sale outcome, and to achieve that sort of thing, you need to be growing. You need to be doing all of the right things for the business to be able to, I guess, massage this thing into something that becomes that entity that is saleable at that point. Of course, we would love that to be to a local larger entity, which is wonderful. Yeah. But then along the way, absolutely, if we can be offering dividends, that is fantastic, because that's great for all of us. If the best thing for the business at the time is to make sure that we're reinvesting because the growth needs to be achieved to stay ahead of the market, then that is what we'll be doing. It's making the best decisions for the business. So I won't and I can't promise dividends at any particular time, other than it's certainly on all of our radars, absolutely. And we can't promise where we end up in the future. But know that, as I've said before, what we do is build the business for all of our benefit, because I'm as heavily or heavier invested in this than anyone is. So it's making all of those right decisions. But the most important thing is, so we're all here to share in that success, which is really crucial. But also, I think it is really important to know that everyone has to make the right decision for themselves as an investment. So this is an investment like any other investment. I say that it's actually not like lots of other investments, because I'd like to talk about sort of the intangibles of what's amazing in this style of investment that is so different to a very sort of hardline financial driven, whereas where are my returns going to sit at, and am I getting dividend style investment? This one is a true investment that you can touch and feel. So the rewards are there for a reason. The rewards are there and structured so that you can become more and more immersed in the business the more you're investing in the business. Karen is here tonight because she's already on board as an investor. And Karen spends a lot of time with us in the venue and wanted to be closer to the brand. And Karen is a prime example of touching and feeling the brand. She's here tonight actually to sort of witness what we're talking about tonight, but already on board as an investor. And I'm really excited about what we can do for these group of key investors to create a real community of people that believe in what we're doing, but also are just as passionate as we are about this this amazing craft spirits industry in Australia. And I think for me, the reward side of it is really important in the sense that you're getting back something really nice, and it's for us, it's about those money can't buy things. So it's access to the money can't buy experiences. We're going to do an investor only gin, and that investor only gin is really exciting because Hugh and I can't wait to be able to sink our teeth into that, because we'll be working with our investors to actually design that product itself. So based on, like we've done with the bootleg box community, to actually build from the ground up a gin that is exactly what they want it to be, and then it becomes theirs and theirs only. No one else will get access to that product. So they're small intangible things, but they add up to being part of an amazing, really exciting community. And I think, you know, there's a reason we won the Innovation Award in London. It was because we think innovatively about how to engage our community, and that's what that Bootleg Box Award was about. So for us, this is another level of that, and we haven't even thought of all the amazing ways that we're going to share this experience with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be really good, not only you know, with the recent press coverage that you received, we talked a lot about independence of the business itself. A number of the different questions that we've got here ask around trade sale and your openness to a trade sale, an IPO in the future, what that looks like, in terms of the specific nature of when a return can actually come in. That is just so hard to predict as a business when you're growing. You've got a new venue. The business could grow exponentially. You could then, like you say, have a flat year, or you could see the business grow so quickly. It's so difficult to manage that growth, and actually what you need is more capital to be able to invest into the business to further continue to grow. So, but a lot of the questions are around the trade sale, IPO, and maybe we can just touch on each
let's delve into that.
there
Absolutely.
and your
I think
take on it.
I mentioned before, Robin, that the investors are on board with us. And we are as on board as you are, if that makes sense. So we're all on the same journey. So I'm not going to say yes we will or no we won't take advantage of any particular opportunity, because we really need to make those decisions at the time. We are all at the moment about being fiercely independent and being able to stay creative and being able to stay doing those things that make us special as we are. But then down the track, we would love for, if we're looking for an opportunity for a sale, it would be for an Australian-owned company first, of course. But again, we've got to make the right decisions by the business and by the shareholders. So IPO, once again, where I'm not going to say yes we would or no we wouldn't. If it's the right thing to do at the time, and I think it's the right thing by all the investors, then we're open to it, absolutely. What is sort of nice about being unlisted at the moment is we're not at the mercy of the share market. So that's the nice thing, is that we actually are, we can control our own destiny as a business. So so this is important to note. This is not an IPO. This is the CFS structure is that we are a public unlisted company. Therefore, all of our shares stay together as a package, dependent on the eventual outcome of where the business goes. So in that sense, I think it's know that we are all about growth at the moment, which is why I won't promise dividends in the short term, just because growth needs capital. And then As for what that eventual outcome is, I don't know what it is, other than we're working harder than anyone else to make sure that we're achieving something.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've spoken so much about the innovation within the team, the way in which you're very adaptable to the market conditions, and I
Yes.
think that that really comes through in the hand sanitizer method in which you deployed that to market to actually grow your online sales, and that's a really great story. And I think trying up from your question, which is what is the expected return on investment for early investors, we just don't know exactly what that will look like. Of course,
Mm.
there are other examples in the market of companies which have been acquired by the conglomerates out there, or they've gone public themselves. I mean, there
Yeah.
are so many advantages to building a highly reputable brand that's doing something different, that has a really powerful community. And that is why companies in this space essentially get acquired, because it's too hard for them to do the same amount of work to build the company up to that point in time. So that's the really hard thing. And I think, Adam, you've spoken a little bit about some of the creativity and the innovation and the focus on trying to, build up the industry as a whole, which is super interesting, to
Yes.
try and make it almost like the wine industry in terms of our export volume. But Trung here has asked a question around how we're going to look to maintain the 50%, 56% compound annual growth rate moving forward in the business. So how we can continue to sort of grow the business itself. Of course, you've got a lot out there, but maybe we just focus on a few key pillars that you believe will unlock an enormous amount of
Yeah.
revenue for
No,
the business.
really great question. 56% annual growth rate is a tough one to keep up, obviously. That's
Yeah.
we've really rocketed along in these early years.
Mm.
I think for us, I alluded to those sort of key pillars that we're working on, and each of those key pillars have been selected for exactly that reason, for
Yeah.
maximum growth potential and for maximum improvement of profitability of the business. So just at the moment, the expansion into Seppeltsfield, early in the business, we sort of said we're not hospitality first, and we're still not hospitality first, but we know that hospitality is this is the most profitable thing we do in this building right here. So to be able to pick that up and step change with another one of these, we know is an immediate step change in revenue and profitability. So that's something that we know we have our hands around. We do this very well, and to be able to do that in another place, it's that it's strategically chosen because the times of the year that are quiet here in the city in Adelaide, they are busy out in the Barossa Valley. So we've got this, we're always about spreading the load of the business. So there's a reason we have such a strong online channel, because it is highly profitable and direct to customer. So investing in that is also, of course, part of this. And there's so many opportunities to be able to hone and improve our online business. The growth piece into export, as we said, it is really just dependent on our time out there doing the things. So it's just making sure that we're taking advantage of those opportunities. We work with state and federal government to make sure they're actually we're getting grants for this activity as well. So we're not just out spending money in other countries. We are doing it very strategically in a way that we're maximizing that spend with shared grant opportunities. But the growth in Australia is really important to note. So the way distribution works, and most people in Australia will say, is a tricky and almost flawed model. So we really want to sort of shake up the way we distribute to increase our market share. We're actually, the first step is just grab back that market share that we've lost during the sort of economic downturn, getting back into those customers that we had. That's the quick, easy runs. That's great. And we've got key people coming on board to do that. So again, this is sort of part of that piece of where's the investment go, and is it strategic towards growth? Absolutely. And then from there, it's once Australia is absolutely, rocketing because you spend at home first before you go and spend money overseas. You always do. It's just smart business. So, but because we are paying excise here, we're at the size that we do pay excise, we pushing into export is very, very sensible. And we know that we've got trademark in about 52 countries. So for us, we're only operating in 4 of them. So that's really exciting. I mean, we have the trademark for Prohibition in the USA for gin.
Yeah.
So that is amazing. Like it's huge, and we just need to get in there and actually be operating and growing over there. So USA is one of the markets. Southeast Asia is huge potential. India has massive potential, particularly at premium end spirits, and that's where we play. So we've got really strong inroads into India. Once again, we just need to sort of channel some specific spend into those export markets to get them firing up. And then back into, we talked about the production side of things. So production is not just about capacity growth. It's about fine tuning down to every unit we make costs less to make. Therefore, there's more profit in every single bottle we sell. And we're about to hit go on a project that is going to really revolutionize our cost basis. So I'm not going to delve into that because it's quite, well, there's a bit of IP in there as well. But it is very, very exciting. It needs a little bit of capital to have a maximum impact, which is great. And I'm really excited about what that does for us, because it actually makes everything about our product easier to scale and replicate, which is great, and brings our profit per unit substantially up. So these are just no-brainer things that we need to do. It's the old adage, you need to spend money to make money.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Never short of ideas, never short of little projects that are going on that could absolutely skyrocket the potential of the business. And yeah, that's, you know, in the competitive space that you're in, you just have to keep on trying something new.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the moment you stop.
It's an important point to touch on. I think a lot of people sort of get worried when they sort of see, oh, isn't it really competitive out there now? Yes, it is really competitive out there now. What's really important to know, in Australia, craft spirits is still less than 20% of the consumption market. So there is so much headroom for growth by bringing back sales from the big internationals to get people drinking better and less. And that has already changed dramatically in Australia. People's drinking habits in Australia have changed really dramatically. They're drinking less alcohol, but they're drinking better. And that's a really good thing for society. And it sort of makes me feel good about what we do. Yes, we make alcohol, but we make a product that people savor and appreciate. They drink it differently to what the other things that they
maximum
consume in large
products.
volume. That's right. Yeah. So for me, it's that joy piece. You know, we make alcohol to bring joy and add something to people's lives. And I think, you know, if you're sitting here in this webinar, there's a good chance that you were attracted to the brand because you've experienced a bit of that joy. Have we experienced a bit of the joy, Karen? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That really answers a question that James asked about the competitive landscape of the craft spirits market. So hopefully that's answered your question really nicely.
It probably half answered it. So it answers the what's our point of difference. Our point of difference is all about making the absolute best product. And we've always made people-centric product. We win lots of awards, but we don't make award-winning gins first. We make people-centric gin first. So when we do a gin show, I have like lots of other brands in the room say, why are you guys always the busiest stand here? Why are you always having more fun? Why are you selling more of a higher value product than anyone else? Because the passion for what we do is crucial and the quality of what we make is there in the tasting. So that was one part of how you compete in a busy market like this. The other one is you are relentlessly innovating. So, it's something that Stu Gregor said to me years ago from Four Pillars. He said, it's just, if there's one thing that will get you somewhere in this business, it's relentlessness. and it's never a truer word was spoken. If there's one thing that would personify our team is we are relentlessly moving forward. Because in this industry, with so many sort of new competitors all the time, if you're not moving forwards, you're moving backwards. So we're always moving forwards. So for us, I'm not worried about the competition because there is still another 80% out there to grab. What I'm most concerned about is making sure that we've got the capital and the people and the resources to actually do that moving forward.
No, absolutely. Also, just pointing out, we are 3 minutes away from the technical end, but I know that
That went fast.
Yeah, it went incredibly fast.
Let's get into some more questions.
We are going to do our best to try and answer as many of these questions. There's quite a few which I can see are quite quick fire questions, which I'm going to do my best to answer for all of you.
And I'll be short and
There are
sharp.
over 200 of you here. Adam, you've done a great job answering a lot of questions in details, and I think that an awful lot of what has been covered has answered a lot of people's questions here. But I'm going to do my best to try and quick fire answer some of these questions here. So just really quickly, how many shareholders and shares do you have currently? What percentage of the company are you offering? That will be in section 2 of the offer document. You'll just go down to the changes in equity statement. But Adam, maybe you could just talk a little bit about the cap table and how it looks right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's in the offer document, but yeah.
It is. So we've had lots of people asking along the way, like, who are the current shareholders? Who owns this business? I still own 90% of the business, so it's you know, it's our baby. You know, my wife is sitting here with notes for me right now, just in case I don't know what I'm talking about. But we are passionately involved in this business, and we are still 90%. So yes, the founders are still here. We have our distiller has a shareholding, and that's really important. He makes the most amazing gin in the world. I believe he is one of the best gin makers in the world, bar none. So he has a stake in the business, which is really important. And we have good friends and really clever people. Ali and Matt Clark have come on as shareholders. Then we're opening up 12% at the moment for allocation to shares, and it's a really easy calculation. $1 is 1 share, so that's doesn't get any easier than that. And we are yet to exactly define how many shares we're allocating, because it's looking like we're at the moment we are significantly oversubscribed in interest to shares on offer. So we need to make sure that we get that balance right.
Yeah, 100%. And is the investment tied specifically to Seppeltsfield, or is it in the entire company?
No, the entire company. Absolutely. Yeah. You become an owner in everything you can see and feel in this brand, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're coming in here for a drink or you're having a function here, you're contributing to your own investment. I mean, that's cool. You know, that's in South Australia, it's the first time you've been able to do it for an alcohol business. So that's excellent. And we are out there amongst our friends and other distillers that have done this in Australia with great success, because I think what we do as creative, passionate, busy businesses is something that's really exciting to be a part of. You know, I mean, lots of people say to me, "You own a distillery, that sounds like fun." Well, let's have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. So couple of questions around the offer document and can we send it over? If you signed up, which I'm sure most of you here have signed up to the expression of interest campaign, in fact 99% of you are probably already there, we will send you the link if you haven't already signed up, but you can head over to On Market and just head to the Prohibition Liquor Co page and just submit your interest there. You'll then basically receive early access to the investment offer. On the 27th, you'll be able to go in and download the offer document, go through it in detail, see so much information on the company and the investment opportunity and where the business is going and using those funds in the future. So yes, please, I have to say this as well, please read the offer document and CSF risk warning before investing. Please, please, please do go ahead and actually open up the offer document and go through it. And we've spent so much time putting it together. It's a whole heap of information on the company, which is just really, really interesting to go through. Michael has asked, do you have a contingency plan if you lose your head distiller?
Yeah, we do. Hugh is amazing. He's incredible. He's out of the country now, but he'll probably watch this later. But no one's irreplaceable. Sorry, Hugh. I say that in the sense that we've always got depth in our team. So we're always very mindful of everyone has a backup person in this building. So our operations manager, for example, has been back and forth working with us for years since he was very young and helping with bottling early on. He's gone away and he's got his oenology and viticulture degree. So he's a qualified winemaker. He's come back in here in operations now and helps with our field blend Shiraz gin, for example, which being a winemaker is an incredible skill to have into that product. And that's why it's part of the reason it's so good. But Hugh is in Japan right now, and Kieran was distilling today. So absolutely. I mean, there is a lot of artistry in what we do, but there's a lot of science to what we do as well. So it's really important that, you know, I can share our botanicals with anyone and they can't replicate our gin. But if you've made it with the maker before and you're a smart person because you've got, you know, all of that skill set, then yes, we've got people in-house that make the gin when Hugh's not making the gin. And what's interesting is Hugh's not the only person that helps on that creative front end as well. So we've got, like I said, we've got Kieran in-house, and we've got our bar team that are really clever people talking about, we're always bouncing around new flavors and new directions and new ideas for gins. So even I, as the designer, the visual designer, am always suggesting new botanicals to Hugh and how we might be able to do things. So I think creativity flows in our blood here. There's a reason Hugh is a shareholder, but also Hugh himself knows that no one's irreplaceable. So yeah.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
Grant here has asked, if the brand is currently Prohibition Gin, can you foresee any other Prohibition labeled spirits, e.g. Prohibition Bourbon?
Great question. Great question. No, you've just reminded me something that I just hadn't even alluded to, which I should have. So we made a whiskey, what was that, almost 2 years ago. So we've got whiskey that's been in barrels for up to 4 years already. So I should preface this with, we are not a whiskey distiller, but we are also not purely a gin distiller. So it is important when people say, well, the spirits landscape is changing, it's not all gin these days. That's correct. Gin is also not what it used to be when it was out of favor either. Gin is a whole different thing these days to what it was back when it was grandma's spirit and it sort of went out of favor. Our whiskey is an incredible product. If you're a icon level investor, you're going to get one of the few bottles left of our first release whiskey. Looking at you, Karen. So that is absolute liquid gold and is an incredible product. Then we have our liqueur range, which is actually probably our fastest growing thing at the moment. So we started making liqueurs as sort of another string to our bow of our gin range, but I'm a branding person, so I said, look, we make a premium gin. I don't want to water down that with liqueurs operating under the same brand. So we created bootleg craft spirits. That's what we can do here. Our bootleg coffee liqueur won best coffee liqueur in the world in London last year. So that product is getting a lot of traction in the market. And since then, we've released a macadamia and hazelnut liqueur with native wattle seed, which is just blowing people away. We have a blood orange liqueur, which is sensational. So these products are really opening doors in bars that aren't gin-centric, or they might open the door to us actually getting our gin range on the shelf. So for us, it's about having multiple strings to the bow. We don't just do one thing, but when we do something, we do it well, and we don't do it unless we can do it well.
Yeah.
If that answers that question.
No, definitely. That's perfect. I was yeah, just going through these questions here, and just for anybody who unfortunately cannot continue to stay on, we've still got quite a few more questions to get through. We
Yes,
are
my
running a
apologies. So
session.
it's a long story, not a short story, but you can watch this later, and hopefully there's lots of depth in here.
We will send the recording around to everybody who's here. So if you really wanted to just tune in and see the rest of the questions, we'll send it around to you so you can do that. If you just need to duck out at this point in time, I just wanted to make that really nice and clear that we will send the recording around to everybody.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your question. She's asked here, so around if we can't buy shares and then be able to sell them at an appropriate time, and there is no promise of dividends being paid in the immediate future, I'm trying to understand what the benefit is as an investor. It seems to be of benefit to PLC, and that's fantastic. But what ROI do I get as a potential investor? Really, really valid question. So I think that
Yeah.
it's super important to just think about the stage of the business it's at, because all the other businesses that are out there that are public companies where you can obviously buy and sell those shares, those companies are at a stage at which they don't need that capital right now immediately to be able to then go on and continue to grow the businesses. I mean, of course, there are so many public companies that do go and raise capital each and every year, and we won't get into the nuances of all of those companies, but just at a high level, it's important to note that you can do that because that company is actually at that stage, or it's continued to go down that route of being able to be a liquid share class. So what we're doing here is effectively presenting the opportunity to buy shares into the company at an earlier stage where there is a lot of opportunity for growth, and it's really about the fundamentals of the business and what it's achieved to date, and then what the plans are for the future, which Adam, of course, you've spoken so much about. But I know that you'll want to say more on this question. Look, I'll hand over to you to sort of conclude it, but it's really just important that everybody does what's right for them and invests capital that they don't need to access within the next few years, because it's very ambiguous as to when you might receive a return on your investment in a business like this, purely because of the fact that the funds are being used to grow the business.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ron. And it's a great question. I mean, you're putting your money into something, you want to know how and when is this coming back to me. So absolutely, I want to preface everything that I say with I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not here to advise you how you should invest your money. I'm also not a clairvoyant, so I don't know the future. All I know is that we work our absolute butts off for this business to make it the most amazing thing we can make it. So would I think I'd be standing here talking to all of you when we started in my backyard with that first bottle of gin? Absolutely not. Like, this is amazing that we could get to this point. But what's most exciting for me is what we do from this point onwards is really exciting, because we will have more capacity to do things than we've ever had. And someone said to me years ago, if you bought in millions of dollars, what would you do with that? And I said, oh my God, my mind is like blown with the possibilities of things what we could do if we actually had money coming into the business to be able to do these things. So yes, we won't make promises on dividends, only because we need to do the right thing by the business, and reinvesting back into the business is really important. It's how we got to where we are, reinvesting everything back into the business. I think you'll have a lot more confidence in this when you see the document, because there's a lot more detail around what we're going to do into the future. But I mean, you only have to look back at some of the breweries and distilleries that have sold in Australia to look at some of the multiples that we're talking about. They're substantial. So I'm not going to promise that because I can't. But that's the sort of goal that we all sort of seek through this endeavor, is to get to a point where we've done all these amazing things, and then we say, right, we're all at a point now where we can go, yep, it's been a wild ride, it's been absolutely amazing, and if it's going to grow to that next stage, it's got to go to a bigger entity that can actually facilitate that growth. But everything that we do between now and then is with strategy to make sure that the business is absolutely honed to be perfect for that eventual purchasor. Again, no promises. It's really important. I'm honest to a fault, so I would never make promises that I can't keep. And that's why I just won't make promises. Also not allowed to make promises here, Robin, are we? About financial outcomes, we just can't. But no one can. I know no investment can. So what we offer as an investment is an amazing ability to immerse in a business that is really, really exciting. And knowing that the outcome at the end will be what it will be, but we'll be working for that to be the best outcome for everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, just even a couple of examples for the attendees to look up: the sale of Pirate Life Beer and Bolter. Those were two companies which were really just built up and then got sold effectively through trade sales.
Four Pillars.
Just a couple of examples.
Four Pillars is a distillery. I mean, they're good mates of ours.
Very much so. Yeah. Very much so. Alan, you've asked what the percentage of the business is owned by a $250 investment versus a $25,000 investment on the valuation. This will be much easier to just work out with you when we've got the offer document in front of us. So come back to us next week, and then we're happy to go through that with you. Lance has asked, why was restructuring practitioner appointed last year? And where are you currently sitting with their restructuring plan? The
restructure has been done. So that was an opportunity for us to move some ATO debt and literally get rid of it. So it's a tricky one in the sense that it is no secret that we get taxed a lot in this business. All the detail of that is in the offer document. Like, we are absolutely transparent with everything. So all the detail of that is in the offer document. So the SBR is a process that the federal government created during COVID for businesses to move a sum of tax debt, which would otherwise get in their way of being able to grow. So that's exactly what we've done. And someone asked me today, what debts sit against the business? Zero debts sit against the business. And that's the amazing part, is because at the end of the SBR, which we're completely paid out in August, we are completely debt-free as a business, which is very unusual. I mean, this business has been built and paid for literally from my own personal savings from day one. So that's a good position to be in. And the amount of tax debt that we moved was only equivalent to the GST that we had incurred on the excise that we had generated in that amount of time. So it shows you how how big the tax is in this country. But yes, process has been followed through, done, and we're out the other side. And that's why investing now is better than it's ever been.
No, of course.
Yep.
And are shares offered in this round the same class of shares that you have in the business right now?
That's an exceptional question. Yes, because we've changed the structure of the business. So now we're a limited company. We're all in the same boat with the same shares. Absolutely, yes. Before that, we were a proprietary limited. So yes, we've changed our share type for this process. All of it's
sorry, Adam.
That's all right.
The shares offered in this round will be ordinary shares with voting rights. Simple as that. So really, really nice and simple for everybody. Michael, your question based on the offer document, I believe actually when you mentioned earlier, Adam, about the 12-ish% of equity around the amount that we're looking to potentially raise, puts us in.
It'll be dependent on the final raise amount, obviously, because everything is fluid. So where that percentage finishes depends on how much is raised. but it's in, yeah,
100%.
it's in that sort of.
100%. So we haven't landed on an exact figure as with regards to the valuation as it stands right now, but that will put us in the 20 something range. In terms of the question that's asked here, just how you get that valuation based off of sort of 10 years of trading, not being profitable. There's so much that you can talk about in terms of what you've been reinvesting the business into as
Yep.
it, has
So
grown and consistently gone from stage to stage. Of course, let's talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, it's a really easy one to talk around valuation. I think valuations are a very difficult thing. We could talk about valuations all night, but in the
Yes.
document, the valuation amount is there. The valuation is based on the methodologies used for these types of raises. So it is a turnover multiple, not a profit multiple. And that's because a fast growth company, a profit multiple is not a true indication of the company. So it's a multiplier based on less than the standard industry rate of multiplier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. And what is the minimum maximum investment amount? So basically, I think that's just an individual minimum amount per investor, and then I'll
Yes.
talk about the $10,000 threshold.
Yeah, sure. So, and the minimum amount of investment is $250.
Yeah.
Again, I can't tell you what percentage of the company that will end up at because it's fluid with how many shares are diluted. But it is 250 shares. That's an easy one. $250, 250 shares. But the maximum, there is technically no maximum.
Or wholesale investors. So this
So
is the
yes,
point.
you can now talk to the yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so retail investors can invest up to $10,000.
Yes.
And if you want to invest $10,001 or more, then you effectively need to qualify as a wholesale investor and have 2.5 million in assets or 250,000 in income over the last 2 financial years. You just need to it's a simple document, which is provided in a help guide through On Market. We'll send this over to everybody who qualifies or is basically expressed interest in that category. So then they can just forward that onto their accountant and get a signature from them to say, hey, I do qualify. I'm a wholesale investor. A lot of people who've probably been through this process know that they just say to their accountant, hey, I just need the 708, as they would call it outside of this industry. It's called a wholesale investor certificate in the crowdsource funding industry itself.
Yeah.
Simple as that. How many shares will be issued? This again, yeah, just we'll wait until we get to the offer document in terms of the exact final amount with regards to the number of shares.
And the only reason for variability there, Robin, being transparent, is like I said, we're sort of oversubscribed in interest. So
Yeah.
we're looking at whether the amount that we've put as the top cap needs to shift a little bit so we can actually bring in more of the amount of people that want to come in. So I think that's the reason for fluidity. There's no other reason. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And we can see it here today with so many people here tuning into the webinar. It's great to see all of you. It's actually been so fantastic to see the amount of interest, the amount of support, the conversations that have been going on, and really just the community that you've built around the business. So yeah.
Look, it's heartening. I mean, I'm a branding person by trade. I give people advice on brands all day, every day. I regularly say that this business is a masterclass in branding for me. It teaches me a lot about branding, in the sense that you wonder, in 9 years of building a brand, what goodwill is in there and how do you quantify it? And it's only when you get to these points that you realize that, wow, we have an amazing amount of goodwill built with our customers in this brand, more than we even think. Like, you always question your own validity, but we have been so heartened by the amount of people that are really passionate about the brand, that believe in it, but they just have a genuine love for it, which is amazing. Like, you can't ask for any more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Travis has asked about the current timeline in terms of releasing the offer document on the 27th to then collecting funds, using the funds for expansion, and what the next 12 months looks like.
Yeah.
The offer period will be open for 2 weeks, upon which then it will be about a 2 to 4 week period of the business release, collecting the funds after the funds have gone into the trust account through on market. They have to go through that trust account as part of the license agreement with ASIC, and then they get released to the company only when your shares get issued effectively as an investor. And then Adam, you can talk about the next 12 months.
Yeah, so the next 12 months, incredibly exciting. I mean, we move forward at such a fast rate that I'm already putting things in place like today for what's happening after this raise, in terms of getting the right people on board and in terms of making the moves towards the build at Seppeltsfield. I want that open for this summer's trade so that we are absolutely smashing it across this summer. So from my perspective, those build projects take time. So we'll be hitting the ground running as soon as we sort of know where all this lands. So Seppeltsfield is a huge one that the timeline is there, the designs are all there, and I'll be sharing all of this with everyone. That's the sort of the fun part, is sort of here's the the latest thing that we're doing, and before it goes out there and before you see it build, this is what we're going to be doing. Interviewing the right people, and we're already doing this stuff as of now. So we will be hitting the ground running. It will start to take effect in next financial year, of course, because we're almost, scarily, we're almost at the end of this financial year. But 2026 year is going to be really exciting for us, because a lot of these things are going to start to hit the bottom line, which is really amazing. The work that we're doing towards the packaging and bringing down that cost and bringing up that efficiency, that's already well underway. So those things will hit really early in the new financial year. Hope that answers that question. Timing?
That definitely answers that question.
Right.
It's really great. Ben has asked a really good question around, will shareholders receive annual business updates and critical information as the business becomes aware of it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I'm nothing if not, as I said, transparent. I mean, we have to be able to report how it's going for your investment. So yes, absolutely, there'll be an annual report. I'm a designer. It will look beautiful, but there will be a lot of really valuable information in there. I think the offer document will sort of show you that. I mean, it's a visual feast, because it gives you a bit of an insight into what this company is all about. It's an exciting document, but there's a lot of meat in there in terms of the numbers, but more importantly, the future plans of what we're doing is all in there. So yeah, reporting for us is paramount, that we're really transparent and really clear with how things are going.
Awesome. I'm just going through all the questions here, and there are so many of them, and I really appreciate everybody's enthusiasm to get to know as much about the business. And I really just want to highlight that we're going through the ones that have been upvoted as much as possible. So please do use that upvote feature if you're looking at this and you're thinking, yeah, I'd really love that question to be answered. So we can get through those as quickly as we possibly can. In terms of the timeline of the offer, so we'll be opening the offer on the 27th, and then it'll be open for 2 weeks, closing on the 13th of March. So that 2-week period is basically your period to review the offer document, consider the CSF risk warning, ask the company any other questions and have those answered, and really just go through that in detail and consider your investment amount and involvement in the company at that point in time.
And I'm open and accessible. I've had lots of people like Karen sending emails, asking questions direct to me. I'm an open book, so I'm here at your disposal. If you've got specific questions, send me an email. I'm happy to receive a phone call. I've been calling. I called Karen. So for me, it's important that you know everything you need to know. I'm not here to sway your decision at all. I'm just here to help with the information. From my perspective, consider us fully accessible.
Yeah, fantastic. And not a question here at all, but Tony has just made a comment. So excited for the Prohibition Liquor Co growth in SA. Thank you, Adam, for your passion, infectious spirit, and marketing SA to Australia and the world. Looking forward to investing in this amazing business. Thank you so much, Tony, for your comment. Really,
very kind.
heartening for all the late nights and
Yes, a lot of late nights.
James here has asked a great question. What are the key risks or challenges you see in this investment, and how do you
Really
believe the
good
company can
question.
mitigate them?
Yeah, very good question. Again, all of this is in the document.
Yeah.
We like I said, we're overly transparent. So there are more risks in that document than most people would sort of throw on paper. It really comes down to, I think, any investment is risky, as we know. So key risks at the moment are just current financial climate. I mean, it's a risk. The nice thing is I feel like we're sort of in some sort of way heading back up, which is great. Like I said, we are positioning ourselves that when people are back and spending the way they were, we are going to be absolutely there to work with them to have amazing things. So we can't predict anything, but in terms of that future, for us, the other thing we're doing as part of this process is putting in an advisory board. So we've never had an advisory board. It's always been me spitballing things, and we do a lot of strategy meetings, and we really take that strategy and long-term view of the business very seriously. But two of the directors who have come on as directors of this business, one is our lawyer, amazing guy, very, very smart. So, and the other is our CFO. Now they, for me, that was heartening that they've seen this business at all of its best and all of its worst in every detail. And we're still really happy to be on board as directors because they know, they've got a lot of faith in me as a CEO, I guess, but also in this business and its future. So we've never had more diligence in the way that we run this business than we do as of now. And our first board meeting is next Tuesday. So for me, I feel like we're really bolstering up our experience at that sort of senior decision-making level. And so, I guess, again, no crystal balls, but we've got the right governance, we've got the right intelligence, and we've got the right sort of key decision making around very, very clever people that go through the numbers with me. Not every year is going to be sunshine and rainbows. That's business. That's literally how it works. So I'm not going to promise that every year is going to be profits from here on in. No business can promise that. But know that every decision we make is to try and make sure that we're always heading on that right growth journey, and towards that ultimate the goals.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've got a question here. You made whiskey. What are your plans to continue that? And what barrel program is there connected to Seppeltsfield and elsewhere going forward?
Great question. So Andrew, the Cooper, very well-known Cooper up at Seppeltsfield, is on speed dial with me every day. So Adam, when are we talking barrels next? So we have 4-year-old whiskey sitting in barrel that's just waiting for finishing barrels. And Andrew, even last night, was sending me messages at 10 o'clock saying, I've got these really exciting barrels for your next set of whiskey finishing. So we've got access to some of the best barrels in the world now with that Seppeltsfield connection. So it's a really, really good point. Our whiskey program is a small program. We are not whiskey distillers. We don't have thousands and thousands of barrels sitting in storage somewhere, but we do have hundreds and hundreds of liters of near ready whiskey ready to start rolling through and expanding the program. It's still going to be that small volume heirloom product in our range that sits at small volume, high price point, high quality. And it is, I think, really important for a brand like ours. We make a premium whiskey that premium gins, if we're going to make a whiskey, it needs to sit at that premium point, and we don't need to make a lot of it. We're not a whiskey distillery at core. Yep.
Yeah, great. Question here from Kirian, question for Robin. We didn't get to know and understand your role. So thank you very much for asking this question. I head up a company called Jigsaw Agency. We're working with On Market and Prohibition Liquor Co. During this raise period. it's a really lovely relationship that we have. It's very intense, and it's just for the period of this campaign, of which we're just a third party provider to this. So no, no more involved than that. And anything I am saying is
Runs a
not
great webinar.
by any means. But no, that is as simple as my involvement in Prohibition and the building of the business from here on. Is the registration for this webinar also for the offer document? No, Ian. Please do. Actually, we'll send you the link to sign up and express interest to invest when we follow up and provide you with the recording. So just, yes, please do make sure that you're on that expression of interest list, so that you will receive the offer document on the 27th and be one of the first ones to be able to view it, so we can get through that. We still have 50 questions open.
Important to note that the offer goes public on the 3rd of March. So
yeah,
I'm not here to say get in fast or don't get in at all, but it's yeah, this could go quick. So yeah. I think the reason for expressing an EOI is to be in the first. Yeah.
100%, because like Adam is saying, we have been communicating the opportunity to the market, and effectively there's just a really pleasing and warming amount of interest from everybody in Australia to say, yeah, I'd love to own shares in this. And yeah, that is in the position where we are kind of looking at the numbers and thinking, well, if everybody decided, there definitely wouldn't be enough allocation. We know that doesn't always happen, but it's really important, if you are considering investing, to open the email when we do send out the offer launch email, and really pay close attention to it, and go ahead and look at the offer document as soon as you can. A question here from Debs: to invest 25,000, it states you must have $1 million in your savings and or have documents to prove. Is this correct? Okay, so just with the legislation for investing, it's actually $10,000, $10,001, in terms of the amount that you're looking to invest. You can only do this if you are classified as a wholesale investor. You need to have 2.5 million in assets or 250,000 in income over the last 2 financial years. And this is verified by your accountant. So it's a simple 1-page document that states that. We'll send it over to everybody who has specified they're interested in investing more than $10,000. So then they can have that document, and they will be able to download it and send it to their accountant and get a signed copy uploaded on the platform. Another question here: with Gen Z drinking less alcohol than any generation before them, how do you intend to market and reach this demographic? Great question.
A really good question. Well, I talked before about people drinking less and drinking better. And I've never seen it so much as I see it with Gen Z, because we do a lot of these shows. And they are, there's mums coming along with their kids, and the kids are squarely Gen Zs, and the kids are teaching mum what this is all about. And the kids are incredibly informed. Like they're really smart. And they're doing the research, and they know all the things, and they're asking all the really in-depth questions of us. And I often turn to my team member with me and say, I don't remember, kids weren't that smart drinkers when I was a kid. You know what I mean? They're really informed, and they really switched on. And I think they, more than ever, they're looking for that premium experience, and they are definitely drinking less and drinking better. Of course, they're smashing their hard solos on a Saturday night, but but the point is, I'm actually really heartened by the next generation of drinkers. Yes, they're drinking less, but they're drinking much smarter than our generation did. I'm a Gen X, so we were terrible. We'll put our hands up, Karen. So the point is, we're getting there with our drinking better and drinking less, but they've come to drinking better and drinking less. So it's almost like ingrained in the way that they're behaving. So yeah, no, I'm not concerned about Gen Z heading away from the type of product we're making. If I was a beer maker, maybe. If I was making, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Any non-alcoholic gins in the future?
Oh, such a great question. We have been working on non-alcoholic since before non-alcoholic was a high demand thing.
Mm,
The problem is we are too fussy. So think of it this way: if you just want to put out a premix, and you don't come from a high quality spirits background, then you're going to put something in a glass and say, that tastes near enough to a gin and tonic. Great, let's get that on the market. Would we do that? Absolutely not. So we are working with the likes of the University of Adelaide and really smart people to try and work out how we can make an amazing gin and then spin the alcohol out of it. It's actually more more costly and more troublesome than making gin,
mm,
but will achieve a quality outcome in that direction. And until we've got to that point, we won't release something. So it's a bit of a blessing and a curse. If we release a non-alcoholic, it will be absolutely banging. But at the moment, we're not happy with it. So that's why we haven't. It's also, there's so much talk about non-alcoholic being the fastest growing category. It's the fastest growing category from the smallest base. So the numbers are actually not significant.
mm.
Dan Murphy's, for example, opened a fully non-alcoholic bottle shop in Melbourne and they closed it again. So it's an interesting market to keep an eye on. I would love to say that we'll nail it one of these days soon and release a non-alcoholic product, but
Yeah.
the reason we haven't is it's not perfect yet.
Yeah. It's probably being tinkered with all the time, and you've probably got many different products. But yeah, no doubt, I
Yeah,
can't wait.
it's not the big market that everyone thinks it is. It's the
Mm,
interesting point about it. Yeah.
no, definitely. And how about brandy? So, comment here from Tracy.
Ah, excellent
Bring
question.
brandy back. Surely it's time.
Look, I fully agree with that. Seppeltsfield is one of the oldest brandy distilleries in Australia. For us to not make brandy up there
Mm.
at some point feels
Yeah.
crazy. I'm not going to promise it because I'm still working on Hugh to get his head around brandy as a concept.
Yeah.
I'd love to think that we would do that purely because it's a sense of place story as well. So watch this space. I
Mm.
personally love brandy.
Yeah.
It again is a one day it will take off product. There's a lot of talk
Mm.
about it,
Mm.
and I think it will. And I'd like to think that we are right there at the forefront when it's on its way up.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
And I think that actually segues really well into the question from Trung here around the specific plans for the Seppeltsfield distillery and
Yeah.
how the
Yeah.
circulation
Great.
enhance brand visibility and growth. You've talked a fair amount about this, but I think, the specific plans for the distillery are going
Yeah.
to be really key.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So at the moment, we already have all of our production other than what we distill here in the city. So we distill in the piece of kit that is sitting right behind Robin in his backdrop. So Mary there is our still here in Adelaide. We then ship the spirit, which used to ship 5 minutes down the road, ships an hour north now. So it's really no less convenient because we put it in the same van. We just drive a little bit longer. And then we do all of our bottling production and all of our storage and dispatch and shipping from Seppeltsfield. And we have been doing that for the last 6 months. So more than 6 months now, Kieran. Yeah. That is already up and running. So that's great. The hospitality side, we've cracked open what we call a pop-up. What we call a pop-up. People walk into that pop-up and they say, wow, this is like a venue. It's amazing. It's an incredible old space. It has so much charm. There's over 100 years of the old awards for the brandies still emblazoned on the walls. It's got all of that history. And the old still is there. Everything's amazing. What it needs is a top-notch bar and a function-capable kitchen and workflow. So it is a space that we'll be able to do weddings and big functions in, which we can't do here in the city, not big ones. But up there we can, and that will be a huge change to our business model.
Yeah, fantastic. There's a question here from Richard, and I've seen a couple of others actually around this subject around maximum target. an oversubscription and what happens. I just wanted to clarify this in case I'd made it confusing in any way at all. If we, so every crowdsource funding offer has to have a minimum target and a maximum target. Once you hit the maximum target, you
That's it.
cannot, that's it. The
Mm.
offer is closed. That is everybody who has submitted their applications at that point in time are the ones who actually have purchased shares. And every one of those individuals who's purchased shares, they've purchased the same class of share, ordinary shares with voting rights, and it's as simple as that. So whether or not you invest on day one, or say you invest on day 6 of the investment opportunity, so long as it hasn't hit its maximum target, the offer is the same. I just wanted to clarify that point in case I'd made it confusing at all, because I've been typing a few answers in here just to everybody, just to make sure that we've covered off as much as we can. And thank you so much for the questions in that regard there. Just going back up to the top here, Chris, you've asked a question around and saying, sorry, inexperienced with shares. Do not worry at all. I really, really appreciate it when somebody who's inexperienced with investing into private companies or public unlisted companies in this case is coming and showing the interest in coming and supporting an earlier stage business as opposed to going and investing in public companies instead. If heaven forbid the company incurred debts as a shareholder, would I be liable to paying these? Adam, no,
No,
no.
no, absolutely not.
That's
That's
not
me.
no. Exactly. So I think it's really a good time to know, Chris. It's going to be really helpful to go through the offer document and not only go through section 2, but also in section 3 of the offer document. It goes through the terms of the offer, and then in section 4, we'll go through details of the industry and the license. So go through that because that will really cover off an awful lot for you in terms of what you're getting in for and basically, what it means to obtain shares in a company at this stage. It just clarifies it all for you in so much detail. So highly encourage you to go through that document in detail. Of course, you have to read it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for asking. If you take more than 3 million in capital raising, won't that reduce the value if there any shares issued? So this is the thing about pre-money and post-money valuations. So the pre-money valuation is fixed.
Yes.
The post-money valuation reflects the capital that has been raised, because the capital that has been raised, $1 is $1. So your post-money valuation is reflective of how much money you've raised in this round.
And important to know, Robin, that the money goes back into the business. So
Yes,
that's where the money
exactly.
goes. And that's why the
Yep.
valuation goes up. The money goes
Yep.
into the business and stays there. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. What is your growth for the next 3 to 5 years? You've spoken an awful lot about what you think the next few years looks like, what the pillars are of the business, and where you're looking to go. Have we not covered anything in that
Well,
area?
I can't promise the next 3 to 5 years.
Mm.
I don't know anyone in business that can promise the next 3 to
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
All we know is that we are 100% here for the growth of the business, and you're here to share in our success as a shareholder. So that's important. I think, if anyone knows me, they know I'm nothing if not hardworking. So we work our butts off to maximize every opportunity this business has and make sure that we're constantly growing. So yeah, it's our 100% focus. And if we're succeeding, then you're succeeding.
Yeah, fantastic. And Tracy here has said, I live in the Barossa Valley, in the Barossa rather, and there are multiple gin distilleries here. What would make your gin different than others? Also, Seppeltsfield is a gorgeous site. I think we can all agree on that for sure. It is a gorgeous site.
If you've ever tasted our gin, you know it's different. So that's I'm comfortable with that one. But also we are really good mates with. There's another distillery on Seppeltsfield Road called Seppeltsfield Road Distillery, and they are extremely good mates of ours. So we're working together with them already to create a bit of a tourist trail through the Barossa for gin instead of wine for a change. So yeah, it's really exciting being part of that.
No, fantastic. Question here around rewards. interested in investing, but I'm not in South Australia. Are there any tangible rewards I can access from a couple of states distance?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Rewards.
So, if you're looking through those reward tiers, there is a pack for every level of investor, and that pack just gets bigger and more exciting as it goes up. We haven't defined everything that's in that, but it's tangible values. And the investor gin is a really core one. It doesn't matter where you're based, you can have input in that investor gin. The whiskey is an amazing product, and the discounts that are attached to each tier are accessible online. So yeah, absolutely, all of that is part of it. Like I said, there's a reason we won world's best innovative marketing for our bootleg box. It's because of how well we immerse our bootleg box members. And like I said, this is just next level. You can definitely visit us at shows, and we'll show you all the love when we're in your state, because we get around. I get around a fair bit. And if you are coming here to South Australia, you are welcome with open arms into our distillery, as Karen is tonight. So yeah, look, I have no qualms that we'll be able to look after you.
Yeah, great. And the rewards themselves, these are not just one-off rewards. You're kind of being brought into the fold as a shareholder. They're rewards, some of them, depending on the different tiers. In the offer document, just take a look at the table. It's going to be all there for you to view, and we'll make it really nice and clear what you get at certain tiers of the investment. If we can only invest a certain amount now, will there be opportunities to invest further at some point in the future?
That's a tough one. We hope that we do this right once. So this is the chance. So you don't do everything that we've done to get to this point to then aim to do this again in the near future at all, or even in the distant future. So for me, this is we hope a one and done. And so yeah, I guess now is the opportunity, because we would like to be just off on this journey, and the business is sustainable. It doesn't need to be doing this again. That's the plan.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Chris here has asked a question around, no, you may not be able to provide specific advice around tax deductions. No, we'll steer a little bit clear of that in terms of, what vehicle you're using to invest.
I can't promise that your gin's going to become a tax deduction in the future. That's that would be nice for all of us, wouldn't it? But yeah, no, I'm not.
No, I think I'll just sort of cover this off, Chris. When it comes to, there are multiple different vehicles you can use to make an investment, such as a company. Some people invest through their self-managed super funds. Some people invest individually. And then, of course, there will be capital gains tax to pay should the investment should the investment increase in value. But it's only when you actually receive anything, and if it's over and above what you paid originally for those shares, that it will actually be for that amount. And that depends on, what category of what vehicle you've used. But it's definitely a question for an accountant or lawyer to cover off. How did the company name come about?
Oh, it's a great question. I didn't even touch on that, did I? So
No.
when we first started embarking on this journey of let's make some gin, it was we looked back at the history of gin, and in 2015 when we started, we were seeing the biggest uptake or boom in gin production and consumption that had been seen since Prohibition. And the reason Prohibition was such a huge boom in gin production and consumption was because they could make gin at home. They used to talk about making it in a bathtub. You can't actually make gin in a bathtub. They would put the vessel that they had distilled into the bath to be able to fill with water to dilute down to drinking alcohol volume. That's often the misnomer around bathtub gin. But It was also the golden era of cocktails came about around that time because of the speakeasy
Mm,
bars. So you couldn't legally drink above ground. You would drink in hidden bars, and they were drinking a lot of gin because it was easy to make during that period of time. You can make it quickly. We can make a batch of gin in 24 hours. Um, and that's why there are still to this date more gin-based cocktails than any other spirit. And it goes back to that Prohibition era, the golden era of cocktails. For us, there is such an incredible mythology around the time.
mm,
The speakeasy bars themselves were incredibly inclusive. So, regardless of race or sex, or you could drink together, which was not a thing at the time.
mm.
It was inclusive. It was celebrating the drinking experience and bringing people what they wanted, even though it wasn't technically legal at the time.
Yeah,
So for
cool.
us, there was so much in there that really sort of tied into this sort of second coming of Prohibition that we just really felt there was such a beautiful story there that we could tell. And it
Yeah,
is
great.
funny that we now uh, have a trademark back into America for Prohibition. Yeah, it's sort of a weird circular concept.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And there's a question here actually around who you believe your direct competitors are in an international market, because you've
Yeah.
talked quite a lot about the international expansion of the business and where you're
Yep.
based.
Yep.
Who do you believe your competitors are?
An interesting one that we always benchmark against across the world is Monkey 47. So Monkey 47, yes, it's owned by like by a big international now, but Monkey 47 is one of those unique products that is always at a high shelf price. It's a tiny little 375 ml bottle, and yet it sits at a very high price on the shelf.
Yeah.
And we always use it when we go into a new market and say, right, okay, benchmark, what's the price of Monkey 47 and where are we sitting relative to that?
Mm,
So it is interesting how you make these sort of parables. There's an amazing brand out of New Zealand called Scapegrace that we're called Rogue Society. They've
mm,
been purchased by a US company now, but they were very much alongside us in shelves around the world at
yeah.
similar
Yeah.
price point. So it's those premium tier products that we benchmark against, because it's every market we go into, people say,
Mm,
this gin is more expensive than everyone else, it won't
yeah.
sell. We're like, back the product, it will sell, and it does sell. So
Mm.
yeah, that's how we benchmark against those premium tier products in any market.
Yeah, fantastic. And just to direct, how many bootleg boxes do you sell each quarter?
Oh, it's a great question. So it varies between 400 and 500 every quarter. And those people come and go. We make that
Mm,
program so no one is tied to it. So you think of your winery subscriptions. Sometimes you're tied in for a year or 2 years and you're sort of like, oh, I really need to cancel that thing. We let people come and go as they please, because if
mm,
we're not making the best box, then they should be able to come and go as they please. So they're not tied to the bootleg box in any way, shape, or form. They can sign in and sign out, and people do come and go. But we've
mm.
always kept this amazing follower base of between 400 and 500 people cycling
Yeah.
through. And some people have been there since COVID, since we first did that box. So it is testament to sort of us keeping it interesting every time.
Yeah, cool, great. And a question here, I don't know if we'll be able to answer this. I'm very interested in this. Thank you so much for the positivity. Will it be possible for me on a current temporary resident visa in Australia to participate in such an investment? I'm so sorry, we can't give you advice in that area.
No,
It's
tough
just
one.
something which I'll have to encourage you to do your own research on. Um,
Uh, yeah, I don't know if this is not answering the same question, but I had a question around interest out of Singapore today, and I had to go back to our market and say, what can I recommend?
yes, yeah.
Absolutely, if they're investing through the platform, they could invest from Singapore. So I don't know what country this person is from, but again, I can't talk to the rules of investment
The,
in
the
Australia.
the the technical function is there. It's the legal element that we absolutely just need to make sure that you've done your own research
Of
on,
course.
and you've ticked that box yourself.
Yeah.
So no, thank you very much for asking. Certainly something which I was considering when I moved over here, and it was absolutely fine for me. But that's
Yeah.
because of the research I'd done from English residents in Australia being able to invest into these companies. But again, we'll definitely, like Adam said, always look at each individual case and make sure that
Your own
you've
situation.
been able to tick that box yourself.
Yep.
We're almost getting to the end of the questions. We are
Right.
almost 2 hours in, and it
Wow.
is actually incredible to see just how many questions we've got. And I really want to say the amount of positive comments in here is just incredible. Chris, I think this was your second part of your question. Sorry, push enter and it hits send. How does it work from there? If you make a profit, do we receive part of that each year? I think we've covered that a little bit in terms of dividends and where the business is going and what we can and cannot talk about. What does it mean our shares are worth more? So if we sell them, we get more money for the shares that we put in. I think, yeah, look, as far as this is concerned, you're investing into a company with illiquid shares. The opportunity for dividends, trade sale, IPO, whatever the company and Adam consider is going to be best for the shareholders and for the company moving forward is exactly what Adam and the team will do. As far as that's concerned, how you sort of see and reflect an increase in the shares that you own in the business is concerned, that there are certain ways in which that can be updated, but I don't want to go into that in detail. I really would just encourage you to read the offer document so you fully understand the nature of the investment that you're making right now at this point in time. And then as far as things are concerned, like Adam said, being transparent and open with every stage of the business from there is a huge priority for them as a team. Adam, anything else?
Yeah. Look, there are just different styles of investment. Think of this
Yeah.
as the longer term investment, but more of a hands-on investment. Yeah.
Mm.
So I think you can buy shares in a big company, but can you come in here and talk to the people that own it with you? That you can do. And do you feel like the bottle of gin that you're buying in Dan Murphy's or from our cellar door here or at a show has an impact on your investment? Yes, it absolutely does. So I think, think of it as a different style of investment, but with a longer term approach.
Yeah, great.
But
And
I'm not here to give advice.
Trung has already made a comment that I think you already answered earlier, but saying, Adam, I'm going to be in the distillery on Saturday. If you're there, it would be great to meet you in person. And you've already said, please come in. I would love to chat with you. So that answers that one.
Yes, I'm not here every day of the week, unfortunately. But if I'm not here and you call yourself out to the team, they will absolutely make you welcome, don't they, Karen? Every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. And what is the foot traffic through Seppeltsfield? How is the how basically how big is the potential there in terms of foot traffic annually?
Potential there is massive. Yeah. Think of the Barossa as one of the biggest tourist destinations in our state here, and Seppeltsfield is the biggest tourist destination in Barossa. So they have days with 6,000 people coming through the venue. So yes, we are in the right place to see lots and lots of people. So yeah, it's up to us to make sure that we're enticing them through the door. Yeah, and that's part of the reason for doing this build right.
Of course.
Yeah. It's an iconic spot. It's a big opportunity. Yeah.
Great. Are the van fleet only based in Adelaide? I think I saw a picture actually of one just in Sydney in the
one from Sydney's come back here to Adelaide at the moment. So yes, they're a blessing and a curse having vans all over the place. But no, at the moment our vans are based here, although I was literally in a conversation about putting a new van in Melbourne in the near future. So yeah, it's a moving feast in terms of how we operate that distribution and wholesale piece of the business. And you just need to go with the ebbs and flows of the market. Sometimes it makes sense to have an asset there and a person there driving that asset around. Other times it doesn't. So then we pack that up and then we roll it back out when it's appropriate. So it's about being nimble.
Yeah, great. And John here has made a comment. Great product. You spoke about how you were able to pivot during COVID with making hand sanitizer. Are you looking at any other products? I mean, we've covered whiskey, brandy, non-alc gin. Anything else that you haven't covered in
Well,
your
it's a funny
incredibly
one. I think
creative?
I talked about our macadamia and hazelnut liqueur, and what's amazing is you take it
Mm,
into a bar and they say, "Oh my God, I've had Frangelico on that shelf for
yeah.
20 years, and I've never had anything to combat it or to
Mm,
local to actually serve against it that's
yeah.
better." And so they're rubbing their hands together. They think it's amazing. So then you look at the back bar and you say, right, what can we knock off
Mm,
next?
yeah.
What can we actually knock off the shelf with something
Yeah.
quality and local?
Mm, mm,
We've made a coconut liqueur recently, which is pretty amazing. It's not out in the market yet, but we are constantly developing new products, I think is the important thing. The bootleg box we send out to road test new products, and when something absolutely flies there, then we know
mm,
that we've done like a 500-person trial of a product that could have really broad market appeal. But the plan is to have a shareholder base to be able to work with that product development as well. So it's just even better.
mm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
We are now down to under 10 questions left.
Oof,
So
we're getting there.
thank you to everybody who is still here. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking the time out of your day.
patience of saints.
Yeah, you're incredible. Um, what specific sustainable practices are you implementing in your business model, and how do
Great,
you plan to
great
integrate these
question.
elements
Yeah,
into your overall strategy to
yeah.
ensure long-term environmental and social responsibility?
Great question. So, um, above me right here is 20 kilowatts of solar panels, which have been here since we first established this distillery. Um, we are really mindful of how we source everything that we bring into the
Mm,
distillery. We're not carbon neutral. I'm not going to try and say that we are, but we are incredibly mindful of how we use electricity, how we reuse botanicals. We peel all of our fruit and don't use the flesh of the fruit ourselves in anything, and then it
mm,
goes into our cafe and you're drinking blood orange juice in the mornings. We send it out to the zoos and other places. So, you know,
mm,
there is a constant thought around environmental efficiency. Our next project is around our bottle, and I can't say any more about that, but it's
mm,
around being more efficient with glass weight, because it's a real environmental trigger point, particularly when we ship back into France. And they're very sensitive around environmental concerns. So we are
mm,
constantly honing our environmental credentials for the fact that we respect the planet, but also because as a business, it's just good business to be environmentally responsible.
yeah.
So yes, it's always at the forefront. There's probably 50 other things that we do that I can't even think of. I mean, just the fact that our spirit is grape-based spirit, it is one of the only spirit bases that is actually recycled or upcycled product. So grain spirit comes from grain that would have gone off to grow something else or to make something else.
Mm,
Sugar-based spirit would have gone off somewhere else. Grape spirit is pure waste from the wine industry. So we bring that in from a company called Tarak. We've had occasional people saying, why don't you make your own base spirit? If anyone knows anything about gin, they know that the best thing to make gin from is the most perfectly neutral spirit. Making
mm,
perfectly neutral spirit would be the most unenvironmental thing we could do in this building. So bringing in neutral spirit from a company that makes lots and lots of it and makes it from recycled grape waste, which would otherwise in Australia be the biggest single polluter in this country, that is a true recycling story. So from our perspective, I like to make the joke that you're, contributing to recycling
mm.
one sip at a time, but grape spirit actually does do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. There's so much thought being put into it, and clearly something you're very passionate about. What's the difference between an icon investor you mentioned and the hero investors and the draft
Oh,
offer?
sorry, I used the wrong terminology. As I was drafting the document, I'm like, what's the right name? Is it icon or hero? I think I changed it to hero, and then I keep calling it icon. Hero is Karen's a hero. Thank you, Karen. You're our hero. So yes, Hero is that top tier investment.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's where I can't wait to sink my teeth into exciting things that
Mm.
we're going to do with our Hero investors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to be really nice and clear, everybody receives ordinary shares with voting rights. It's
Yes.
as simple as that. So, you know, the difference in the name is not the difference in the legal structure. So
No.
legal structure of which you obtain those shares, it gives you equal distribution for, you know,
One share, $1.
rights depending on how many shares you obtain, and you know, equal issuance of capital in association with how many shares you own. What sale price would you need to achieve for shareholders to get their contributions back, and how does that relate to the company's value today? Of course, you know, we'd like to see the
Sliding
valuation
scale. Wait,
go
yeah,
up, of course,
wait
but
for the document, of course,
yes,
when that's solidified, and then it'll be pretty clear from there.
yeah,
But yeah, I'd literally be quoting a number that's prone to change at the moment.
of course. And I mean, look, we've delved into this in so much detail, and really, I think the conclusion is that there's just so much ambiguity around a specific timeline figure. It's not the right thing to state. It's more important to just focus on the growth initiatives of the company, what the opportunity is ahead of us, and the path that we're taking might present those opportunities in the future. And as those opportunities might present themselves, you'll make the decision that's in the best interest of the business,
Of course, yeah,
shareholders.
and the shareholders, yeah,
Exactly.
of which I'm one.
Exactly. Um, a number of comments here, which are really great to see. Alfred, thank you so much for your comment. Thank you, Adam, and the wider team for this incredible offer. And then thank you, Robin. Alfred, thank you. Too kind. Great presentation, Adam. Love Prohibition and looking forward to becoming an investor in addition to a loyal bootlegger. That's great to see. Ross has said brand ambassadors such as Urban and Kidman, Jackman, or Robbie, or are they too expensive to bring on board? Looking at favorites in the US market. Oh, this would be interesting, actually.
Oh, look, we have, there's always conversations happening around those things. So
Mm,
yeah, no, Brett, influential people as brand ambassadors we know how well that works in the spirits industry. And
mm,
yes, we've had plenty of jokes around, or not even jokes, conversations around, you know, the likes of a Hugh Jackman embracing Prohibition up against aviation with Ryan Reynolds.
mm,
And, you know, you just never know in this world.
yeah.
Yeah, it just comes down to degrees of separation. So from our perspective, if we were to do something like that, it would be doing it knowing that it is, again, in the best interest of the brand and the business, and in the best interest of the shareholders, and really rocketing the brand forward.
Yeah, and we've just got a comment. Robbie has her own gym brand, probably out for this one. So,
There goes Robbie.
um, do you, and we've spoken so much about this, but do you use a specific type of grape? I don't know if we've.
Short answer is no. Because we're talking neutral spirit, think of it as they are gathering. So it's the perfect business model for our friends at Tarak. So the wineries pay them to take away their grape waste, and then every output that comes from those grapes, they sell to a different party. So we buy the neutral spirit. It comes from a collection of different grapes. Neutral spirit is just that, it's ethanol. And the reason we don't make our own neutral spirit is there is no artistry in making ethanol. What you want is purity. It's essentially like a grape vodka. And when I taste a gin that is made from someone who's made their own grape spirit, I can taste it, because I can taste those notes of grappa. Everyone knows what grappa tastes like, probably from some weird Italian uncle somewhere. It's grappa is its own product. It's amazing. But do you want your gin to taste like grappa? No, you do not. And it's just purity of the grape spirit that makes that difference. So yes, it would be every type of grape variety coming together, distilled into neutral spirit.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And we have no open questions. We are done. Thank you
Unreal.
so much to
Thank
everybody.
you, everyone. It's been an epic journey. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Linesman. Thank you, Ball Boys. Robbie, thank you. You're an amazing facilitator. Um, I talk too much habitually, so Kate has a sign here that says stop talking. But it's I think for me, being able to share this journey is amazing. So if I've talked too much, I apologize, but hopefully there's some depth in there that really sort of helps you, understand what we're all about, not to sway your decision whatsoever, but purely to, I guess, give you an idea of what this business is all about.
Yeah, and just even a final question from me. What is it that makes you most excited to bring investors into the business? Like, what do you
I like that question.
actually really like about the opportunity that you're opening up, and what do you think you want as an experience for investors coming into the business?
Put it this way, when we close this down, I'm going to go and sit with Karen and have a drink. So to have a drink with someone who's come on board as a shareholder, having faith in us as a business to be part of this journey, I mean, that's amazing. Like, that's really exciting. I think I've said this a few times along the journey. The most exciting part of this business is never what we've done, it's what's to come. So the future for us is always so exciting because there's always so many opportunities. So for me, I'm excited to keep going on this journey, but to share it with so many people, and for them to be able to come in here and feel like they're part of something and they own something that is pretty special.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and I cannot ever see a point at which you're never going to be creative as a business founder. I think, that's just always, that's in your blood. You just cannot stop thinking and tinkering and experimenting.
Yeah, and what's great is that anyone who's met Hugh would say exactly the same thing. He's like a library of botanical knowledge, and his creativity in spirits is just incredible. So yeah, we're a bit of a duo, but yeah, I think this is a team of people that are like that. So everyone in this building is here for a reason, and they're all as passionate. So I think. Yeah, it's exciting.
Fantastic.
I'm really excited about the
Fantastic.
next
Yeah.
stage.
Well, look, we've answered over 100 questions. Thank you
Oh,
to
that's
all of
pretty
you
good.
who stuck with us right until the very end. No doubt an awful lot of you are already on the expression of interest list. We will send that through to you as well as the recording. So if there were any parts of it that you missed, you can obviously put it back on, when you're working away. But it's really exciting that we get to open up this opportunity next week. And we'll, of course, notify you of the exact time at which you can go in, and then we'll send you an email as soon as it's open, so you can go in, be some of the first people to check out the offer document, consider the CSF risk warning, and make your investment to gain your shares. So, look, thank you so much to everybody here. I'll hand over to Adam to make a final closing statement, and then you can all go ahead and enjoy your evenings.
No, yeah, thanks, Robbie. Very well said. I honestly, I cannot thank you all enough. Firstly, for being part of our journey till now, for registering to be part of the next part of the journey, but just for having the patience to be with us here tonight and to be interested in what this is all about. I really can't wait to get cracking with the next stage of the business, and I really hope to see all of you in here at the bar. Like I said, Karen and I are going to get a drink right now. But for me, it's all about us getting into it and really getting moving, and we're already doing it. So yeah, it's happening, and yeah, huge thank you to everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Adam. You've been great to have this chat with, and everybody here. Thank you so much for the questions. And we'll see you all very soon.
All the
Thank you.
best. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.